Welcome to the Clubhouse Roundtable, where I am wearing the crown for having won the fantasy baseball league that Ryan invited me to last year. Champion crown wearer. So, Ryan, welcome to our show. Clearly, we have no rules here. We're just going to fuck around and find out throughout this entire conversation. For those of you who are new to the Clubhouse Roundtable, we did episode 1 a couple of weeks ago, where we introduced sort of what the whole idea of this was, which was to combine sort of the barber shop with LeBron James, with endurance sports and real life, and just have a conversation without any scripts, without any sort of agenda. We're going to follow the path of the conversation wherever it takes us. As you can see, we have Ryan Reynolds, our Ryan Reynolds, in the big spot today. He has volunteered himself to be the guest in this conversation. Good luck to him as we make our way through this. And as we introduced last week, we are going to be rotating amongst the 4 members the topic. And so this week, Derek is going to be presenting the topic, and I'll ask him to do that here in a minute. But first off, Joe, how are you doing today?
Oh, man, wonderful. I'm excited for the roundtable. Excited to have our Ryan Reynolds in the hot seat, too, I guess. So, heck yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Joe's internet in Lebanon, Indiana is about 4 or 5 seconds behind when it's working properly. So just be aware of that. He's fully engaged with us when he's with us. Santino, brother, how are you doing today?
It's guys ever feel like the world is a tuxedo and you're a pair of brown shoes?
Or not even a pair of dress shoes at all.
Pair of flip flops, yeah. I'm like a pair of flip flops today.
Yeah.
We'll turn that around. I'll be in Phoenix on Thursday. We'll get together. We'll have dinner. We'll run a little bit. We'll turn that around.
Absolutely.
Derek, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing good. Nice, enjoyable weekend, and life's all right, man.
Braving the 19-degree temps in Chicago, Illinois these days.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a little bit of snow here, which is all right by me. I mean, if it's going to be cold, I'd rather have a little bit of snow on the ground than just be dead and freezing. So
I feel you. And our Ryan Reynolds, a key contributor to the Run Try Bike community and the Everyday Athlete Clubhouse, and a linchpin in the What's in Your Earbuds Monday contribution, like a million songs every single Monday. Joe's fingers can't keep up when he's trying to add them to the playlist. Ryan, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Number one, I renewed our baseball league this week.
I saw it.
I'm having second thoughts now that the crown entrance. No, rightful champion, rightfully so. I think I won the year before, and Jason came in and took it from us. But other than that, I'm doing great. And yeah, What's in Your Earbuds Monday is something I always look forward to. So I'm always like stirring up some songs in my head just to always have some ready to go anytime. So you know how that goes.
I shit you not, dude. I've already been on ChatGPT running who my keepers should be for this upcoming season.
Let's go. My team was terrible, so I don't know that I'm going to have anybody noteworthy. We'll see.
Awesome.
take them out, Ryan. Come on.
We'll try.
Everybody gets one, you know?
That's right. I got to reclaim the throne, too. It's a nice welcome, Matt, and now it's time to get down to business. So
here's the beauty of it all. I live on the West Coast, and I believe all you guys are in the Eastern time zone. So when they go to bed, I can get in there and start adding free agents while they're fucking sleeping. And so I'm just adding and subtracting players constantly.
It's an advantage. I was gonna say with Central and Eastern time zone, we hold it down, but it's nice in the morning if you have injuries, but
yeah,
at night, not so much.
Awesome. Derek, I'm going to turn it over to you. You have, you're holding this week's chalice for the question topic that we're going to start with, and then just let the river take us where we go.
All right. Well, I'll just knock the chalice right over. We're, my concept for this week is, you guys know, Ryan, you obviously didn't get a chance to see, but I sent you guys all a reel, and essentially the gist of it was something that I think all of us have experienced, and a lot of people who have been through some of the, drastic changes that we've been through, or endeavors that, things that we have taken under like that. And essentially what it was is, when you go through that change, you will encounter people who accept you for the changes that you're making in life and accept you as the new you. And there are people who have a very difficult time letting go of the old version of you, and accepting the possibility that you could change and become that new version of yourself. So a little bit of what I, just kind of wanted to talk about is, A, experience with that, and, B, how do you deal with that, both with, the people who are supporting you and the people who aren't. And also the fact that a lot of times the people who end up having the hardest time letting go of the old version of you are people who tend to have known you the longest, and your expectation would be that they, more than anyone, would be behind you bettering yourself.
We'll put that right into Ryan's lap. Let him jump right into the fray.
Yeah, I think so. I'm of two minds of this, because when I was younger, about 20 years ago, the person that I am today would not recognize this version of me, and vice versa. And I was a very bitter and angry person. So I was the type of person, and I'm not proud of this, but I was the type of person back then that would mock people that were changing, or maybe not necessarily to their face, but just that you think they're better than me. Like, what are they doing that for? Like, why would they do that? I didn't understand it. And I see that now. The younger version of me didn't. And I understand as I've gotten older that was me with all my insecurities, deflecting that outwardly instead of like focusing it on me. And
before you go on, dude, what were you dealing with 20 years ago? Like, what do you think brought on those insecurities?
I think it was well, that was much heavier. I didn't have my eating habits under control. I didn't do any sort of exercise. I was just angry at the world. I would have been about 20. And so you're phasing out of that teenage angsty phase into adulthood. And I had some good things in my life. It really wasn't like there were people around me. I had met my wife by that point. There were people around me that should have kept me from being that way. I was just so self-centered and just angry at everything. And I think that's what it was, is I just would not take the time to step back and realize that it was me that I need to be focused on. And so now that I've done that and I've kind of gone on, and there's been some times where, as I've been going through some of these transitions over the years, I lost weight, the running and the fitness stuff. I kid you not, I post on TikTok and stuff about running and weightlifting. I would have made fun of me. No question. The 20-year-old version of me would have made fun of me. And I have no shame admitting that, because I'm embarrassed that that's the way I was. Right. So I say all that to say that I do understand if there are people that don't understand what I get from this. I hope the way I kind of approach it is I don't hold any ill will, because I was that person. And I'm sure there were people that did hold ill will from that version of me. But I just hope that like one day they'll maybe understand or see like why I do these things and what the radical change. And honestly, just by who I am and what I do now and my mindset in life has changed because of both the weight loss and the running and the lifting, all of that stuff. It's taught me so much, and it's just changed me in a 180 direction that I hope that people can see that. So it's one of those things too. And just to kind of wrap this thought up is like, in terms of how I handle it, if people reject it or even if people accept it, it's more just like, I'm going this direction, because you have to be a little selfish when it comes to these personal journeys in a way. Like, I try to be a people pleaser and I try to be there for all the people in my life that need me to be there. But you also have to be a little bit of selfish to get where you want to go in this regard. And so it's that, like, if people are following along in the current with me, if they're swimming upstream with me, we're along for the ride, let's go, that type of thing. Other than that, it's just like, I get it. I understand why someone would be questioning the person that they knew, because it's kind of hypocritical if they remember me from then to now. I get it. I totally get it. But it's also like, I've changed and we just move forward, and that's how we're approaching it. So hopefully that made sense.
Yeah, dude, Joe, I want to go to you, and I want to take Ryan's example of 20 years ago. So go back 20 years, 2006. Derek and Santino, I'm going to ask you to do the same. Who was Joe 20 years ago? And who did he leave behind? And who were the people that were like, dude, where the fuck did you go?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a big question. I mean, 20 years ago, I mean, you guys didn't know me, but I was not at all who. I mean, I was much different version. I don't even recognize. I bet I wouldn't recognize myself, 20 years ago. Like, it's been such a wild swing from where I was till now, and yeah, I'm sure I would also make fun of myself for some of the things that I do, but I think that just shows you that I've made such a drastic change. But um, and unfortunately, had to become, like you said, I've had to become kind of selfish in my journey to some extent, and some people that aren't on board the changes that I've made. And I used to really struggle with people not accepting me for who I am now, because they're always going to look at me the way I used to be. I wasn't a good. I was hurting, so I wanted other people to hurt. So I left a trail, like I left like a wake pain. Like, my addiction was painful to everybody, and I burned about every bridge that I had through my addiction. But there's accepting for who I am now. I used to just like go around in circles trying to show them that I was different. Kind of reached a point recently. It was just like, think what they're going to think about who I am. There's nothing I can do about it. They're going to not that comes working the steps too. It's just, I can't, I have to accept that I can't change this thing. So there's nothing to move forward. And if they don't belong for the ride, like you said, okay. I mean, I'll accept them if they want to, but there's nothing I can do if they don't. So.
Is that Arlo in the background, dude? Joe, is
No,
that
that
Arlo in
wasn't
the
here.
background? Oh,
No,
That's Stella.
no.
That's my bad.
oh, okay. He's what? Joe?
he's not barking yet.
Santino, 20 years ago, Santino Williams was.
Oh God, this is like this is one of those questions that you could sit and kind of, I'm sure all of us could really pontificate about all night long.
Define that word again.
Pontificate? Hold court if that's more. But it is one of those things where I'm not saying this to be funny, and I think everyone here can relate on a certain level. I don't remember a lot of 20 years ago. Oh, what's up, Joe?
Enough for he's barking.
Oh my God, that's from.
That's like 10 minutes away.
Oh shit! Oh, we didn't mean to laugh. Come back.
Now Ryan can see it for himself in real life what actually happens.
That was amazing.
Oh my God.
That was amazing.
But just to kind of go back to the question, I don't. It's not that like, oh, I've lost, these whole tracks of time. But 20 years ago, I was 22. I was still, really kind of figuring myself out. I think there is a lot of overlap. Not to say it's like pat myself on the back, but it's like I've taken the things that I've wanted to and just kind of been able to make them evolve with me. Certainly, there is something still to this day about using sarcasm as a, I guess, defense mechanism or whatever, this and that. But, to your point, Ryan, I was a much meaner person back then for sure. And, I think back on some of it, if I'm being honest, it's like maybe it was justified because I wasn't necessarily hanging out with some of the best people either. But, a lot of it I look back on with embarrassment where it's like, you give yourself certain grace. Oh, I was a kid, whatever. You were 22. You knew better by that point. So, I do think just in terms of the people who I had surrounded myself with, who I kind of like actively chose to share my time with in those days, if they were to see me now, and who knows where, a lot of them ended up. And, philosophically, I kind of look at it like, we let the dead bury the dead. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily mean that these people are, you know, still doing the same thing, whatever, this and that. But in my mind, they're still that same person. I wouldn't necessarily want to associate with them now. And I don't think they'd want to associate with this version of me. So, you know, it's very, very, it really is, like I said, it's one of those things you can get really philosophical about if you want to stop and think about it. But there are so many variables where it's like I try and give myself grace for a lot of these things, but then at the same time, these are lessons that, you know, have kind of formed and shaped my worldview, how I walk through life now at 42 years old. So, you know, it's just one of those things where it's like everything had to happen the way it happened, but at the same time, you know, I certainly wouldn't want to revisit it, put it that way. And just my own self, the social circles that I was a part of, what I was doing, how I was behaving. I mean, take them all as lessons, but, you know, at the same time, I think anybody who is, you know, in their 40s now, if they're still looking back on their 20s, like, oh, those were the good old days, you really took a wrong turn somewhere. At least that's the way I see it.
Derek, before you answer that question, answer this question. How old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 45. I'll be 46 in August. Yeah.
And Joe, you're 46? Come on, Lebanon, kick in. Anyway, all right. So Joe will answer in about 10 minutes. So Derek,
I believe Joe is 46.
Okay. So Derek, so 20 years ago, Derek was, and what are the lessons you've pushed yourself along the way to now the age of 45, soon to be 46?
Yeah, you know, it's really funny. 25, I was fairly close to where I am now. So that would have been the first time that I gave things up and had started road running at the time. I had just recently lost a very close friend of mine, and I was the one with him when he passed. It was an incredibly traumatic experience. Jason knows the story. We talked about it on Enduring Minds. You know, coming out of that, I found running and road running at the time, marathon running, and so that was a very pivotal moment for me. But I was young enough at that point where I wasn't doing a lot of the real deep work that I've done in the last couple of years in this stage of my life. So there was stuff healed, but I was moving on with stuff still unhealed. And when things started to get really tough again, I fell back into the same holes. I fell back into drinking and drugs and smoking cigarettes, and, you know, fell out of running and all of those things. And quite honestly, probably went through a period of 4 or 5 years, especially during, you know, the bad early COVID years and stuff. I was really isolated, probably harder than the time before. But, you know, there's such a noticeable difference in where I find myself now, the work that I know I've done, the things, you know, the locked boxes that I know I've cracked open, that let me know that I'm never going back there. So yeah, you know, in note to, you know, what Ryan and Joe said, it's a little different for me. And, you know, part of the reason that I brought this topic up is, you know, I mean, I'm only 2 years into this. You know, it's about 2 years ago that I gave up drinking and quit smoking and made the decision that I was going to really start doing what I needed to do to be the best version of myself. And so not only in this and greenness do I still experience this quite regularly, it's fresh enough for me that I always shove it off as nicely as Ryan and Joe are describing they're able to now. It is something that still rattles around in my head, and I have difficulty answering or dealing with or moving past when you know the things that you've done, you know the things that you've been through, you know the places you've had to go and bring yourself back out of, and then to have somebody who's known you for 10, 20, in my case could be 40 years, look at you and say, this is all bullshit, this is that. You're the same person you've always been. That's it, no matter what, that's a hard pill to swallow. And so, yeah, I mean, that's a big part of why I bring it up is, I'm like, listening to Ryan and Joe to hear, what, the tools and the ways that you move past those things. So, and again, I think it's something that anybody who's taken the time to take the look at themselves and do the work has experienced, because you're going to change in a way that there's going to be people around you that aren't going to see that or accept it.
I'll give you my story in a second, but one of the things I want to mention is so Ryan, I was thinking about this as Derek explained or expressed his drug and alcohol use. Joe has shared his story. I know Santino has dealt with weight issues and the mindset behind all of that. And I've got, alcohol as well as weight and disordered eating going in my story. For you, you said you lost a lot of weight, and I know when I interviewed you, was there also ever drug and alcohol abuse in your life?
No, the crazy thing for me, it was always food more than anything, and it's not. And again, it's one of those things where I've thought about this a lot because I was very. I don't know how to describe this, but I was very aware, like growing up in terms of alcohol. I drank a little bit, but not a ton. And I always knew my limits with that. And I always find it very weird that I knew like, okay, I'm hanging out with friends, like if I do this, I'm only going to like drink this or this. I don't want to push it too far. But then when it came to food, I had no guardrails whatsoever. I could sit down, I could house a pizza, and I could turn around and I could do this and do this. So I think for me, just to answer the question, food has always been more of the thing for me, as opposed to anything else. And yeah, I never really had drugs and alcohol, any problems with that whatsoever. I think it was more just, I'm a very timid person. So that stuff, I was like, I'm going to stay away from that. Sorry. I'm going to stay away from that. I can hang out with the food over here and be fine. And it got me into a lot of trouble.
Here's the wild thing. The reason why I asked Joe and Derek about their ages is you guys are telling stories from your 20s. I was 32 20 years ago. So as a quasi adult, I guess, there should have been some lessons learned from back then. But 2006, I was in my first marriage, and in retrospect, it was probably already on the downslide towards divorce. But at the time, for me, it was corporate America. How do I climb this ladder? I had this thing to prove. So I was the first person in my family to go to college and graduate. I was the first person in my family to have their master's degree. I was, I believe at the time, a vice president of a company that was grossing $250 million. And so it was this, how do I keep this sort of facade, I guess, of being corporate America Jason, right? Like shirt and tie, negotiating, go do the lunches and, the martini dinners and all of that Mad Men type shit. I worked in advertising. I mean, that show couldn't be any more accurate, to be honest with you. And this was 2006, and I think that show was based in the 70s. Not much changed from the 70s to probably till today, honestly. And so I was drinking and probably not paying attention to the marriage, and it was already on the downside, and I got divorced in 2007. And so when I think about this, I remember telling two of my closest friends back then that I'm getting divorced, and I'm asking you guys, if you see me acting in a certain way in the office, you got to check me. You have to let me know, because I cannot ruin this ride that I'm on. It wasn't a roller coaster. It was going up. I was making money. I was doing the corporate thing. I was a vice president. Like, you got to check me because I can't let that happen. Well, as it turns out, one of those friends was not so much of a friend and wound up going somewhere else. And so I could see their visualization of who I was, this go get 'em, always show up for work early, leave late, put in the extra hours, do all of those things, go to the dinners, go to the lunches, all of that stuff. And I could totally see them being like, that's not the same guy that I see today. Now, if we fast forward to now, and we're talking 2026, that person that I'm looking at is a fucking stranger to me. I have no idea who that person is anymore. I have been sober, haven't had a drop of alcohol in about 15 years. 06, I had probably just got started because I ran my first half marathon in 07. And just getting started in this process. But all along the way, I've been divorced a second time. I have moved across the country. I have quit drinking. I've started this business. Like, Jason today and Jason 20 years ago, I mean, they are complete and utter strangers. And the Jason today would probably support Jason in 06 and be like, it's all right, dude. You'll get through this. It's hard. You'll have your ups and downs. Life will punch you in the face repeatedly. Like, it doesn't punch you once and then walk away, right? Like, life will fucking keep punching you in the face, but just keep showing up. And so it's just interesting to have these conversations with all of you guys. And nowadays, so I'll go back to the question of people who they thought that you were 20 years ago. And Derek, and I've shared this with Derek, like, this idea of having to be perfect has not left me. Like, I feel like I always have to be on. I always have to be perfect. I always have to do the right thing. Otherwise, people won't like me. And it's complete and utter nonsense, right? But that's part of the demon that I battle from, probably my whole life, having moved around as a kid and everything else. But because of these conversations with you guys and Derek sending me the message that he did, it's taken the pressure off. And it's kind of like, here I am. You can take it or leave it. You can follow, unfollow. You can block. You can fucking mute. You can do whatever you want because I got my boys here. Like, I got my guys here. These are the people I'm depending on, not fucking Jane in Joplin, Missouri, or Steve in Sarasota, Florida, who I don't know who you are. This is who I got, and this is who I'm leaning on, and this is who I talk to on a regular basis. And I said it last episode, like, at 52, being able to say I have found my best friends in life is wild. Like, it is a crazy thing to think about, man. But it's the truth. And, Ryan, we haven't hung out yet, but I know you registered for Hustle in the Heartland. So we'll see you on October 20th.
Absolutely.
And I'll see Santino on Thursday or Friday or Saturday this week coming out. And I've run with Derek and Joe already. And it's that kind of shit. Like, just being in each other's lives without having to worry about whether or not it's good for Instagram or TikTok. Like, who gives a shit? The rest, that stuff will all just fucking fall into place and it'll be what it'll be at some point. You know what I mean?
Do you find, sorry, I don't mean to just jump in here, but the light bulb kind of went off listening to you talking. Do you find that it's more of a confidence thing, or is it more of a, I don't even need to worry about it sort of thing? Not in an indifferent sort of way, but maybe that's still confidence, just being at the point where it's like, this is not something I choose to stress myself out over anymore.
It's a fucking New Yorker thing, dude. I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious. I moved to Dallas, Texas for 13 years, and I hid who I was. Some people might tell you, no, you didn't. But yeah, I really did, because in all honesty, go fuck yourself. Like, if you don't like it, go fuck yourself. You don't have to be here. The same two thumbs that you're going to use to type something negative to me, you could use them to scroll the fuck on by. You could press the block button. You can press the unfollow button. And that's okay. I don't fucking know you from Adam anyway, right? When it's all said and done. So if you're going to be in our crew, shall we say, if you're going to be in our community, then be in our community. Talk to each other, help each other out, lift each other up, call each other on our bullshit. If Joe says to me, man, I don't think I can do this 10-mile run, or I don't know that I can get this new race set up. I'm going to call him on his bullshit because I want to be like, dude, you've already done Hustle in the Heartland. You've already done all these miles at Momofo. Like, you can do this shit, right? So I think the answer to your question is yes, it's a little bit of confidence. And I think that comes from being a New Yorker and Lori giving me permission to be that New Yorker, in all honesty.
Well, and that is huge. It is about having, just to kind of go back to the people you used to know, whatever this and that. It is about having the right people around you as well. Like, none of us are doing this shit by ourselves. So you do have to have your team. That doesn't mean, the things that I wake up in the middle of the night freaking out about that I ask my wife about, I'm not necessarily going to be calling everybody here bothering them. But at the same time, I know that if push came to shove, I probably could, and it'd be like, oh, we'll figure it out in the morning. But it is very, very important. And I think, just to kind of go back to Derek's original question, that's, probably the biggest evolution, at least for me, is being a bit more judicious about who I choose to surround myself with.
Any one of you, I'll open this question, as we've gotten older and we've moved from the person we were 20 years ago to today, to use Santino's word of confidence and growing confidence, do either of you, or any of you, I shouldn't say either of you, do any of you have a moment where you're like, this is when life changed? This is when I grew confidence. And you might have multiple, because I can tell you I have multiple moments, right? From Lori telling me, dude, you're Puerto Rican, be fucking Puerto Rican. You're a New Yorker, be a New Yorker. You want to run this business, you want to start this business, go for it. Like, those moments of her supporting me and giving me confidence from the beginning are absolute markers for me on my journey. Do any of you guys, can you recall any of those like confidence markers?
I'll go real quick. I got 3 quick hitters. I won't spit, but I can. You said multiple. The first one was, so to take my story back, before I lost all the weight, or before I went on the weight loss journey, I tried running for weight loss first. And the first time I ran a mile without stopping, I was 29. It's 2015. And I remember the corner in my tiny hometown, and I still will run by that whenever it's 30 minutes away. I'll go over there and I'll run every so often, and I'll go by there. I got emotional the first time it happened, because that was the first time that like I had legitimately worked at something that I didn't think I could do. And then I just kept going, and I told myself to keep going. There was nobody telling me I had to do this. I just did it. And whenever I reached that mile without stopping, and you're talking maybe, I don't even remember what the mile was, 13, 14, 15 minutes. I don't know what the pace was. It doesn't matter. It was a while. And I just remember I didn't stop. And that was the first time where I was like, I'm doing things that I didn't used to be able to do. The second, very quickly, was that weight loss. And whenever I finally stepped on the scale and saw the number didn't start with a 2, and I couldn't believe it. I reached Wonderland. And that was another thing where I finally figured something out, and I put a plan into action, and I started to go. And then the third one, very quickly, in 2021, I had worked at a company for 13 years. I started there when I was 22. I had worked my way up. I got laid off. It was one of those things where I was like, I had always thought professionally, like, if I can just get comfortable, stay here, be fine, whatever. I was happy with that. And I got laid off in 2021, unexpectedly, out of the blue. But after that, I remember the calm when I told my wife. I got off the meeting, you get all the corporate whatever's on there, and they're like, we're sorry, we're eliminating your role. And I was just like blindsided, and I was angry. But I remember this like peace that came over me. And I was like, I think this could turn into be a very good thing. I had to call my wife and let her know, like, hey, I got laid off, but I was like, I think this is going to be a good thing. And it's legitimately turned out to be a good thing. Like, my career is taken off now. Granted, still have work stresses and things that frustrate me today, but I was so held back in hindsight by that job. So I just say that because that is both, from a fitness standpoint, from a weight loss standpoint, and from a professional standpoint, those 3 things, like, all of a sudden it just stacked up. And I was like, this is how I know I'm a different person than I would have if the layoff would have happened to me before the other 2 things happened. It would have just absolutely destroyed me. And so that's how it all kind of built up into that one moment.
Before you guys jump in, so Ryan, I remember the first time we talked, you were still unemployed, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I got laid off 2 other times after that.
Okay.
But so it was probably during one of those. But I still say that yes, but it was when I say it was better, but it set me off in a path where, like, I knew what I was looking for and I could go get it.
Yeah.
In in the tech world, layoffs happen all the time. It's disgusting and gross, and it's angry. It makes me angry, but nonetheless, I've survived it, and we still move forward.
Take risks and bet on yourself, dude.
That's I want
planting that seed.
I hear you. I hear you loud and clear.
Derek, Joe, or Santino, you want to jump in?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I have a few. One is, I still struggle. Sobriety is a journey. It's not, it's not a finish line. I remember I had like 3 or 4. I've got like little. I never had like big aha moments, but I had one where a couple of years ago, I did a public speaking event, and I like followed the lieutenant governor of Indiana at a speech, and like during the speech, I was just like, holy shit, this is like who I am now. And that was like one of them because, you talk about 20 years ago, I felt helpless 20 years ago. And here I am like talking to people about how you can change and it's possible and you feel hopeless now. And this whole thing, I was just like, wow, like in the moment, I was like, this is insane. And I had like a running journey one 2 years ago. My first 50K is I saw like a picture of myself bombing this like downhill, and I didn't recognize myself, and I was like, whoa, like that's another thing. I was like, this is who I am now. Like we always talk about imposter syndrome. I struggle with that all the time, and I'm taking on all these crazy ass things that I never would have had the guts to do 5 years ago, much less 20 years ago. And then I saw people from Hustle in the Heartland recently. They're like friends with each other on Facebook and Strava, and they run together now. And like, it's not that I created that, but I was like a part of that. And I was like, I'm a race director now. Like, so I've had like a few big moments. Like, I mean, even a year ago, if I told myself a year ago that I would have done something like that, probably wouldn't have believed myself a year ago. 20 years ago, absolutely no way. So that's been like my recent ones that I can like recall, I guess. But
dude, don't discount yourself. Like those people got together because of Hustle in the Heartland. Don't fucking discount yourself, man.
I also think it's like I just like created the stage for that, right? It's like
Yes.
It's just so cool. Yeah,
Exactly. You built that.
Yeah,
they wouldn't have met without you, man.
Yeah, it's so cool seeing them like they're like friends now, like outside of that moment. So it's like so cool. It's like, wow, that friendship.
Earlier this week, I saw Mary at Roddy to the Chorus, her handle on Threads and Instagram, give credit to Becky Robinson and Kevin Shea for a treadmill workout. And look, maybe it would have happened, but I can guarantee you it got sped up because of the Run Try Bike community. And that is exactly why we have this year, because I see people talking to each other all the fucking time. And I'm like, ain't no way in hell those two people would have been talking to each other if it wasn't for this community and all these dominoes that we have all built together. Like, there's no way. So don't discount yourself, dude. You fucking built it. And now you've got the second race coming about, and you're gonna continue to extend those relationships between old and the new people in your sphere of influence, man. Pat yourself on the fucking back, dude. I mean, literally, do it. Derek, you have any aha moments?
Yeah, I do. But real quick, I just want to say, so it's about a year ago that Joe and I were first introduced to each other through Instagram. He was posting something about his woodworking, for sure. He was posting something about his woodworking, and I made a comment, and it just kind of took off from there. But one of the common grounds that Joe and I had right off the bat, I have a lot of people know a huge history in running event and endurance event production. And it's something that Joe and I were led right away to. And I remember a year ago, Joe saying how much he wished he could make something like that happen and how it was such a pipe dream at that moment. So for me, it's amazing to see that come to fruition from the outside looking in. And like Jason said, do not downplay it. And anybody who doesn't know Joe's one of the excuse my French, but he's one of the hardest working guys in the business. I mean, anybody who knows Joe knows the guy is working nonstop, day and night, trying to build his dream. So whatever rolls your way, you've earned every little bit of it. Benchmark moments for me, man. I'm for sure a huge one is my first marathon, which was Chicago. I mean, that was when my buddy had passed at the time, I was smoking 2 to 3 packs of Marlboro Reds a day. If it was a Saturday night and I was out drinking, that could be 4 or 5 packs in a night. Drinking a case of beer a day and taking whatever else somebody put in front of my face. And I was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 225 pounds when I crossed the finish line in Chicago.
Fucking way.
Yeah. When I quit drinking this time, I was around like 205. I didn't get quite as big as I was last. I was just showing somebody a picture of me before like back in 2005, and you wouldn't recognize my face. But yeah, I mean, when I crossed the finish line of that race, I was a $152. And I, in a matter of 9 months, had taken myself from chain smoking cigarettes and drinking beer the way an athlete would water and, all that stuff to losing the weight and crossing that finish line. That was for sure a moment to me where even though I fell back in that hole, and I've said this before, other times we've talked, when this time came around, it was different and there was a lot of different stuff done and it was a completely different experience. And I know I'm never going back to that place again because of the stuff that's been done, but it was a little easier to make that leap having that knowledge I had before that, hey man, you can fucking pull yourself out of any damn hole you want to. You just have to make the decision that you want to start climbing out. That's all it is. So that's a huge one for me. Another big one for me is obviously finishing my first 100 this last year was massive. I mean, that really showed me, the sky was the limit. I mean, that experience with Joe, I mean, that I've learned, like you're saying about being at this point in your life and making some of the best friends you've ever had in your entire life. I mean, it's just to have that experience and share that with somebody and be building that at that point in your life. And, real quickly, just to jump back, like kind of what you were saying before with the change between old and you is now. For me, I mean, a lot of that has to do, I think, with age. And I know for sure talked about this before, is just kind of getting to that point in your life where you let a lot of that ego go. You let a lot of that childhood shit that makes you angry or want to fight back with somebody. You push a lot of that out. You realize you don't need that to prove who you are to anyone anymore. And that allows you to build those connections. That allows you to have that, like we talked about last time, to have that vulnerability to build those connections, to find those parts of yourself. So, yeah, I mean, a benchmark moment for me is the biggest one of my life is probably just the last 6 months, just that chunk of the things that I've learned there. So
That's awesome. Santino, what do you got?
Oh boy, I have a couple, and I just kind of listening to everybody else. I think mine are relatable to everyone, but just kind of in a different form. Obviously, we're all individuals here. I'd say probably my first. It wasn't even like a big aha moment. It was just sort of something that kind of happened, and sitting back afterwards, being able to kind of dissect it, it really sort of shaped my approach to a lot of things. But I don't really keep it a secret. I do not speak to my biological dad. I haven't spoken to him since 2009. And so on my dad's side, I'm number 7 of 8 kids that he acknowledges. That number is considerably higher because he's not a good person, but not for that, but any number of reasons. But in my early 20s, I had kind of reconciled with him. My dad's he's got a little bit of money. He's, you know, whatever. And it's like, I kind of wanted to be part of that world, and just kind of seeing the curtain pulled back a bit. It sort of, it made me realize, you know, how people like that, they don't care about anybody but themselves, you know, and I won't really get into the whole long and short of it here. I don't want to turn this into a episode of Enduring Minds. But I was,
I'll send you an invite for that.
for sure. I was at home one day, and he had called, and this was back in the days of landlines still.
Rotary or push button?
It's still cordless. I mean, we're talking 2009, but I had a cell phone too, but people would call you on your house phone. And it just, I pick up the phone, it's him on the other end. And I don't know like where this came from, because he's the kind of person you have to be very obsequious to. It was just like, don't ever call me again. Hung up the phone. And that was literally the last time I spoke to him. My oldest sister, who's the favorite on that side, she reached out a bunch of times, and finally, you know, I told her, it's like, you don't ever call me again either. And then I said, wait, you can call me one more time to tell me when he dies. And that was the last I spoke to her. And it was the sort of thing where, you know, afterwards, I was able to kind of unpack that, and I still think about it from time to time. It's like, whatever our chains are, whatever we find ourselves tethered to, it's not necessarily something that, you know, we're obligated to honor if it's not doing anything for us. So, you know, that was where I learned to be a little, I don't want to use the word selfish, but I guess for lack of a better term, I'll say be a little bit selfish, where it's like, I can prioritize, you know, myself, my own comfort, this and that. And that was huge. Another one, and this is, you know, kind of a weird one. And I think about this a lot. I was even younger. I was in my early 20s, going to Vegas a lot. And on this weekend Vegas trip with this incredibly problematic friend group, I just happened to wake up earlier than everyone else. And it's like, I'm not waiting for anybody else. Let me just go get a cup of coffee, go whatever. We were staying at the Bellagio, and in the they had a little gallery. I don't even know if they do anymore. I haven't been to Vegas in like 10 years, but there was like a little art gallery in the Bellagio, and they had all these works by like Van Gogh, and it's like, wait, you can just like come in here and look at this for free. And there was something about just sitting in the moment, probably, you know, hungover as shit, whatever, this and that, but, you know, being in the presence of this artwork, it's like, there are so many possibilities in life, you know, and it is one of those things where it's like, I think we were all kind of a generation where we were raised to be like, oh, you can be anything you want. And that's bullshit. No, you can't. But there are so many possibilities just available to us in life. And I don't know, I still, if I really sit and think about it, or if I, you know, talk to a psychiatrist or something, I'm sure I could kind of unpack a better connection there. I don't know what it was that made that light bulb go off for me, but like literally that moment sitting in an art gallery, it was like, I'm not limited by what I think I'm limited by. I have options, you know, and I'd like to say, you know, it would be a really cool story if it's like, oh, that was when I decided, you know, I was going to turn my life around, stop hanging around with reprobates and whatever, this and that. It wasn't that simple, but it was always, maybe that was what kind of planted the seed in the back of my head or something like that. I'm not quite sure. But, you know, even to this day, if I'm, you know, going through it, if I'm struggling, whatever, this and that, I can just say to myself, it's like, I can figure this out because I have options, you know, and I take great comfort in that. It's something that has served me well, you know, kind of over the years, just that very, very random moment.
Dude, do you think, because your mother is an artist, do you think, so two questions actually out of this. So the idea that you weren't connected to art until you walked through the Bellagio lobby seems odd to me, knowing that your mother is an artist and does that stuff. And do you think that connection to your mother and the art was what gave you the moment to stop and see the Van Goghs?
It could very well be. I just, growing up as a kid, my mom she didn't do art vocationally back then. She had like a day job, and she was an artist because she wanted to be. And, now that she's older, she is an artist as her job. So I think there was some level of resentment as a kid growing up around art so much, because it's like, this is where my mom's spending her free time. Like, no, you're supposed to do, you're supposed to spend your free time with me. And I don't want to paint the wrong picture here. There was no like neglect or anything like that. My mom, she wasn't a super young mom, but she was younger. So it's like, she was still figuring it out too at that point. I'm sure, again, I've been in and out of therapy so much my whole life, and I don't know why I've never really talked to any therapist about this, but I'm sure if I really sat down with a shrink and kind of unpacked it, there probably is a lot of connections there if I'm being, 100% honest with myself.
I'm going to tell a story that will give you guys and the audience a little bit of a window into who I am as a person, and I'd like for you all to do the same. But before we do that, I find it interesting that Santino and Joe, I believe, used the word selfish earlier, and yet had to defend this idea of not being selfish, which is wild because every person on this screen is so giving of their time, but we have been programmed that being selfish is a bad thing. Yet if we don't take care of ourselves, it's the whole fucking plain oxygen mask thing. If we don't take care of ourselves first, how can we take care of others? So it's just so interesting that during this, we're at 50 minutes or so right now, that the word selfish, I think 3 times has come up. Ryan, Santino, and Joe have mentioned it, and kind of defend, like, not to be selfish. And it's like, yeah, but sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, you have to fucking be selfish, right? Being selfish doesn't mean that you don't reach out to your buddies and say, hey, can you help me? Or to your spouse or to a coworker and, hey, can you help me? And can you do that? Like, to me, that's not being selfish. To me, that's, being human. But it's so interesting how we protect ourselves from, and maybe it's the internet, right? Like, oh, you're a fucking selfish douchebag when somebody types in at you, and you're like, you're protecting yourself. So you give this phrasing like, not that I'm selfish or anything. And it's like, nah, man, sometimes, not sometimes, put the oxygen mask on first and protect yourself. So here's the story. And I thought about this as Santino was talking, and that gives people a little bit of a window into myself. So I was about 14 years old. I was playing baseball, Little League baseball, and I was the shortstop on the team. And we had this kid, Mike Victorio, who was the third baseman. And if you played baseball, you know anything about baseball, he was olaying everything. Like, the ball would be hit to him, he would run, like, move his hand out of the way and hope the ball wouldn't hit him and everything else. And the coach would get really upset. And I've always considered myself a leader. So I looked at Mike and I'm like, get the fuck out of the way, get behind me, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And I yelled at the coach, like, hit it as hard as you could. And he would hit it as hard as he could. And I would block the ball. It would hit me in the chest. I was bruised, like battered and everything else. And I looked at Mike and I said, Mike, you see, I'm still talking to you. That baseball didn't kill me. It will not kill you. Get in front of it, knock it down, but stop being afraid of everything in the way of you, man. And he became an all-star third baseman after that, because he just needed somebody to show him that the ball wasn't going to kill him. When it hit you, it hurt. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like I was Superman and had a chest plate. It fucking hurt. But, like, I just felt like in that moment, he needed somebody to show him that it wasn't going to kill him or break him or make him any less than if the ball hit him and he didn't glove it cleanly. And like I said, he went on to become an all-star third baseman in Little League. And, I was 14 years old at the time. And it's just something that has always been a part of my DNA. And I think it's a part of why I love running this company, is to be able to show people, like, you can do shit. Like, if you could just get out of your own way for a moment, you can do shit. And it doesn't mean you're going to be winning the Olympics. Doesn't mean you're going to qualify for Boston on your first try. Just got to keep showing up and doing the things that matter to you and getting better at it incrementally. And if you have the talent that the moment you start, you're already at Boston, awesome. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Most of us don't do that. And it's just, I wanted to share that because I think when people tune into this, they're going to hear us talking about drug abuse and alcohol abuse and disordered eating and weight loss and running and aha moments and everything else, but they don't really get to know who we are. And so I just wanted to share that little bit so that people can get to know who we are as people, so that when they come and hang out with us on the website or on our social media platforms, you're like, yeah, I kind of know who this guy is. This person is really cool. So I'm gonna go in reverse order. So I'm gonna start with you, Santino.
Well, wait, hold on. What was the question?
Do you have an example? Like, give us an example, a story of who Santino is. Like, is there something that you did growing up, or maybe even just yesterday, that you would point to and be like, "Can you guys hear the motorcycles behind me?" By the way,
I heard a little. It sounded like water running or something.
It sounds like crotch rockets galore up and down Sunset Boulevard right now. It is so loud.
Just a little background music. Who am I? That's a really great question. I ask myself that a lot. Still, if I'm being 100% honest, I don't know that, I have, a super concise answer. I think about it in terms of, being a dad, being a husband, even being a friend, whatever this and that. I like to offer people what it is that I think I would like, especially like in the case of my daughter. It's like, okay, what was I lacking growing up that I can kind of offer her? And a lot of times it's like, it's not this like magic aha thing, but it's like, we're going to try it this way. If it doesn't work out, if you think this is stupid, whatever, we can pivot to another, whatever. Same with like friends. Jason, you and I, we were having a conversation the other night. I don't even remember what had started it, but I wasn't telling you anything that you don't already know, obviously, but like sometimes it's good to remind people of, what they're accomplishing, what they're doing, how huge their work is. And, it was really important to me to just kind of convey that to you, because sometimes I need that, you know what I'm saying? So it's, not for anything, but it's like, who am I is kind of a question that I can't answer, but it's like, this is what I have to offer, and maybe in some sense that's who I am, but I don't know. I think about this sometimes where it's like, and I'm sure everyone can relate on like a certain level. We all still have, going back to that 20 years ago, we all still have that kind of anger, that sort of whatever that, it's taken a long time to learn how to keep that in check. You have to kind of sometimes repackage it in healthier ways, whatever this and that. But at the same time, if you look at it, it always kind of came from missing something, at least for me. So it's like, if I can sit here and I'm not solving anyone's problems, whatever this and that, but even if it's just like a stranger in the store and like they're wearing a really cool pair of shoes, he put those on because he wanted somebody to notice him that day. So it's like, oh, those are really cool. Did I improve this person's quality of life by any measurable metric? Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's like, you just kind of, you have to give people kind of what it is that they're missing. And that's, I suppose, my thing. I maybe this is because I struggle with sometimes giving myself compliments or whatever, but it is one of those things where it's like, let me be kind of the helper that, the world needs from time to time. And am I curing cancer or whatever? Absolutely not. But at the same time, it's like, if there can just be some little interaction with a stranger, with a friend, with, whoever, let me take advantage of that opportunity to just give them something that I would want if I was in their shoes.
Derek, you have a story?
Yeah, I don't, I think I probably just listening because something happened very recently to me actually that I think is probably fairly showing of who I am. I was watching a movie recently, and during the course of the movie, quick background. I growing up in my much younger years, like prior to high school, for a very long time dealt with a lot of like heavy bullying. So as a result, I am somebody that, like, if I'm watching a movie, I love to see the mean bad guy get his comeuppance. You know what I mean? And not because I'm a violent person, because I'm not by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I'm the kind of person that sheds a tear if I hit a squirrel with my car. But I in a movie, I love that only because I love that karmic retribution for being a dick. Um, and but yet I am have this empathy. I think that sometimes is to my own fault, where if somebody were to be falling off a cliff 5 seconds.
Whoa!
That's
The timing's been impeccable on all
Go away there. What happened?
you're good.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
Am I still here?
Yeah.
Hold
Oh wow, Derek's running into the
Oh,
Joe
no.
problem. Joe, you got a story while Derek figures his shit out?
I'm Joe now.
Okay. I'll let someone else take the reins for a little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, go ahead, finish it off there.
Can you guys see me or no? I can't see anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see you, brother.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
He can't hear any of us or see any of us, I'm
okay.
guessing.
Yeah.
Joe, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I've got something. I was trying to think long and hard about this. Well, outside of the normal stuff, father, husband, obviously podcast host and all that jazz. I had something that happened to me a couple of years ago. I worked closely with somebody that wanted to come out as transgender to the rest of the people that I work with. And I didn't realize that I was the first person they had told that. And when they had told me that this is what they wanted to do, they wanted to, come out as their new identity, and this is who they're going to be referred to as. And I just listened, and I just said, hey, my advice to you is to do it. Like, live your truth. Be authentically you to everybody, including the people here, if that's what you're comfortable with doing. And, whatever that, and I thought about that deeper, obviously, like, why they tell me first? And it made me think, going back to who I was 20 years ago. And I was like, mate, I must come across as somebody that is empathetic, and that was huge, or understanding that's huge, because I wasn't that person 20 years ago. I was very closed-minded, and like I said, I was hurt, and I wanted to see other people hurting. And I know that sounds crazy, but the fact that I had changed myself so much that they felt comfortable enough to tell me that was like huge. I was like, wow. And I think that was my moment. I had to really think hard about that, but that's been like such a big deal to me. And I guess I just want to always kind of build on that. I want to just, in a way, I want to always be that person they saw and need to tell me that. Like, that's just been kind of my new like benchmark, I guess.
That is exactly who you are, dude. Like, that is their like picture perfect description is empathetic. Like, that is exactly who you are, man. 100%. Ryan, you got an example for us?
Yeah, I don't have one specific story, but I'm the way I'm trying to think of this and relay this, I am sort of a product of time, patience, and grace. And I think about all of the people over the years in my life. I touched on it earlier about when you asked me about why I was angry and bitter. The people in my life, I had no reason to be. I am surrounded by wonderful people, every different direction you can look. And I realize that I am incredibly lucky, blessed, whatever word you want to use in that regard. And so I had no reason to be that way, and yet I was. And I look at, whether it's my wife, or when she was my girlfriend, my fiance, my wife, like when she met me and the person I was, there was no reason in my head that someone like that should look at me and be like, hey, I want to invest in that person because I see better things in them. But she did that. And I say all that to set all of this up because as I was over the years, you know, with the negativity and just sucking the energy out of the room, with everything, I think my son's over here dancing while I'm trying to tell the story here.
I love it.
I apologize. So the negative energy and sucking the energy out of rooms and just not knowing that, being that person, I say all that to say that like my philosophy now is to just pour as much positivity back into anything I do, optimism, smiles, whatever it may be. Kind of like Santino said, like even just a fraction of a moment of a day of like complimenting someone. Jason, I think it was in one of your morning cup of Jason's recently where you talked about that. And literally, I think a day or two later, I was running and there was a kid rollerblading on the opposite sidewalk going up the hill. And he gave me a big thumbs up. And I used to rollerblade as a kid and I clapped. I was like, great job. And like, it was just a small moment in a day. It made me smile. It made him smile. So I think that's it. It's more just like understanding that like, I didn't have one flashpoint of like, I'm going to switch and be this way. It's looking back at all the people in my life over the years that gave me the grace and whatever to be the angsty emo kid that I was and young adult that I was and understanding that they didn't have to do that. And they did. And I'm thankful for it because they very much could have just kicked me out of their life. And so I just try to pass. I guess it comes down to passing that forward, but more just like I said, just pouring the positivity back out from all that negative energy that I sucked up years ago. Just trying to correct that moving forward, I guess is a good way to put it.
We're bumping up on time here, and I want to let the audience know that when you see a group of people you may not think you have anything in common with, I want to point a few things out, and I want you guys to correct me if I'm wrong. So first of all, out of the 5 people on the screen, 4 of them have facial hair. I do not. Out of the 5 people on the screen, Santino, myself, and Ryan are bald. Derek and Joe are not. Santino, myself, and Ryan are massive baseball fans. I know Joe is not. Derek, I'm not quite sure if you're a massive baseball fan or not.
Not massive. I mean,
Okay.
I follow baseball, but not massive.
Santino and I both live on the West Coast-ish. Joe, Derek, and Ryan are Midwest in Chicago, Indiana, and Illinois. We all have different backgrounds. We went to different colleges. We all run different distances. Derek, Joe, and myself are ultra runners. Santino and Ryan are marathoners, soon to be ultra marathoners at the Hustle in the Heartland on October 10th. Runsignup.com. Make sure you do it. And so like when you look at a group of people that you think you may not fit in with, introduce yourself because you never know what you might have in common with these people. Like, again, we are all from different backgrounds. Santino and I are Hispanic. He's Cuban. I'm Puerto Rican, right? Like the rest of these guys are not Hispanic, but I know Derek loves fucking Spanish food and he's mailed me a t-shirt that says cafecito on it. So like, you just don't know what you might have in common with somebody. And so it's the whole don't judge a book by its cover concept, right? So introduce yourself. If you see any one of us on social media, fucking reach out. Hey, I saw you on the Clubhouse Roundtable. Hey, I saw you running down the street. Like one of the things I wanted to mention to Ryan was the story he told me when I interviewed him the first time, and he started leaning into it a little bit earlier, was like he would run to a park, a picnic table, right? Like somebody might catch up to that and be like, shit, if I can just get to my picnic table, and then reach out to Ryan and be like, thank you. Like these guys are all warm-hearted. They are willing to give you the shirt off their back and they will help you out. So make sure you do that. So I'll leave the floor open before we close out. If anybody has anything they want to add to this episode, I'll leave the floor open to you guys.
Yeah, I'll just say thanks for coming on, Ryan. It was awesome, man. Like,
Yeah.
I love what you do. Like, you're such a big part of the community, and I don't know, you just get me fired up. The songs get me fired up. So it's so cool to have you on this show. So I'm just stoked. I'm stoked to see you in October too. I'm really fired up. So
No, I appreciate that. I'm excited to see you in person and get there, hustle in the heartland. I'm a couple hours away. It's like I got to make this happen. But I will say, just in terms of the show and this conversation, I think these are the important types of conversations that we have to have. My philosophy has always sort of been like, to use my son's word, he's gone now from the dancing, but to use, the cringe stuff. I'm like, I don't mind being cringe because I don't view it that way, because I feel like, and I've told Jason this before, if I'm going through something, or if I have thoughts, or if I have these insecurities, or if I have whatever it may be, I know there's somebody else out there. And we're just, it's too scary sometimes to say that. So I just have gotten to the point where I'm just like, I'm going to put it out there. And if people relate to me, kind of like Jason, like you said earlier, if you relate, if you follow, if you're along for the ride, so be it. And so I say all that with this conversation and the openness and the vulnerability. I think it's important. And I love being a part of this conversation. So it was great to talk about all the stuff that we did tonight.
That was one of the things that Joe and I had talked about probably at the end of last year, like fucking lean into the cringe, man, because there is somebody out there who is like, that's me. Lean into the cringe, man. Like there's just, this world is so good at putting up blockades and gates and telling you that you suck and you're an asshole and you can't do this and you can't fucking do that. And, it's really good at doing that. But what it's not good at is, hey, I've got a shoulder for you to lean on. Hey, I've got an ear for you to listen to. And hey, I'm just as fucking weird as you are, so let's be friends. See,
the cringe is the way I look at it. We're all in the same age bracket here. What is more cringe? Us being our genuine selves, having fun and fucking enjoying a life that, we've worked towards, or still pretending like we're in high school and focusing on the opinions of, complete strangers on the internet. So I don't even necessarily look at it as cringe, because it's like there's a level of cringe I don't want to be, because I know at 42 years old, if I was still worried about whether what I'm doing is cool or not, trust me, that's not cool. So,
you guys are so young.
I think it is one of those things where it's like, you have to find your people, and we've got our people here, and conversations like this, it's like we have our kind of our social lives, whatever, this and that, but it's very, very rare that you can regularly just kind of sit and just kind of let your hair down, proverbially, and not necessarily there you go. Not necessarily worry about like kind of modulating, what it is you're going to say or whatever. And obviously there's limits to that, because you can swing the pendulum too far and you got those, oh, that's just how I am. And it's like, no, how you are is an asshole. But there is something about being in a kind of safe space to be your genuine self that, is huge. And I think probably the world would be a better place if more people had that. So, I appreciate getting to hang out with you guys on a regular basis.
100%. Derek, anything as a parting gift for us?
Yeah, I mean, I just the same as what everybody else is saying, and we've said it before. We talked about it in the first episode. It's the vulnerability. Be weird, be yourself, be vulnerable. I mean, that's where the magic happens. Nothing special happens when you're hiding.
100%. Thanks everybody for watching us. Thank you to Santino, Derek, and Joe for participating in this experiment that I had an idea for about 4 to 6 weeks ago. And Ryan, thanks for stepping up to the plate and throwing yourself into the middle of this conversation and exposing yourself through honest, open, and vulnerable conversation. Like, we need more of that in the world. So I'm thrilled that you raised your hand when I dropped it into the Slack channel and you were like, yeah, I'm in, dude.
Absolutely. Anytime. You let me know.
And I will, because I'm good at that part of it all. All right, everybody. We'll see you. Have a great one. Thank you so much.
Love all you guys. Have a good night.
Love you guys.